when you notice that, does it give you the desire to treat those versions of those types of intrusions differently?
I think it definitely makes me want to be more aware of the beliefs that I have around them that I still don't even recognize that I have, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so that's part of the therapy process too. Good therapy for OCD isn't just exposure and response prevention, or also called ERP. It's also helping you understand the beliefs that maintain it. So, I mean, the way that you'd be using exposure and response prevention for your content is you go into work and you have to write that note. That's exposure. And response prevention is you're not going to check on that note. You're not going to do the thing that your mind compulsively wants to do. So that's ERP. That's great. And if you still have an underlying belief that if you make a mistake, it could harm someone, or if you make a mistake and it harms someone, that would be catastrophic, then you're still going to have a part of you that kind of resists the exposure and like really hopes that you don't make a mistake. And that will keep that whole process sensitizing for you.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I do a lot of bracing still, because I think my job is so new that it's feels like I need to keep myself from making mistakes that are catastrophic. So yeah, what you said just resonates.
Okay. And so that'll take practice too. It's okay, given that this is a new experience, this, just like in any kind of exposure, it's okay to modify as you kind of gain your experiential confidence that you can do the thing that you're afraid of and you don't have to do the compulsion and response. One way that you could think of the first couple of weeks of this position, this job, could be as like a modified exposure, where when you get sensitized and when you get anxious about documentation or any other part of your day, you just want to remind yourself that you're sensitized because of your underlying belief, but that underlying belief is really hard to challenge in the context of not having a lot of experience and like not there actually being quite a bit of uncertainty about how the job's going to go.
Okay.
Does that kind of,
yeah,
does the modification make sense to you?
it does. I guess do you mind saying it maybe again or saying it in slightly different ways?
Yeah. So if you want to go straight at the heart of your OCD, you would go into that documentation offensively and say, I can't wait to write a note. I love living with the possibility that I make a mistake. I'm going to do it quickly. Like, you don't, just like in order to do exposure to what if I stab someone with a knife, you don't actually stab someone with a knife. You just hold the knife with the possibility that you would stab someone. So as you're doing documentation, you're not actually making a mistake. You're living with the possibility that you make one. But the way to be on the offense would be to, for instance, write the note really quickly, so that the likelihood that you'd make a mistake is higher. And maybe while you're doing it, you're thinking, like, if I make a mistake, then I can handle it. Like, this would be okay, not bracing against it as though it's a threat. And if that seems like too big, well, actually, let me get your impression immediately about that. Do you feel willing to try to work faster as a way to challenge and be offensive about your OCD?
Yeah, I don't think I thought of that as an offensive, but like I just didn't think of it in general, I should say. But I like that, because it means it's a lot less checking and a lot just more being efficient, which I could use when I'm at work.
Okay, great. So then how else could you, and I guess to my point earlier, it's still going to be a process because being new in any job has more uncertainties than just OCD uncertainties. So if you can be on the offensive now when you don't really have your sea legs under you, you're probably going to you're hopefully going to have even less OCD long term as you get used to the position.
Yeah.
What
No, that
what
that resonates.
what else might you want to be more offensive towards when it comes to the OCD you have right now at work?
I think just being willing, like that idea of making a mistake in general, like maybe there's a way to be more on the offensive with that, because I think I'm always bracing against not necessarily documentation related mistakes, but it's part of it. I think just the overall theme is making a mistake in general. So, almost like I guess, just sitting with that thought all day, like maybe I made a mistake, or like reminding myself of that, like if I'm documenting, it's like, yep, that could be a mistake. I could have documented that wrong. I might not be doing this like part of the documentation right, or I might not be doing this intervention right, or I might not be naming it the right way. But all those to say that they're all mistakes that I brace against constantly.
Yeah, that's great. Even you might not be prepared enough. So rather than over preparing before any given workday, you could also prepare just enough and then live with the possibility that you miss something.
Yeah, no, I like that. That makes sense.
Um, okay, great. Well, in awareness of our time, is there anything else that has been particularly you've learned over the last year, 6 months, or that has been particularly helpful to you that you want to share?
I think just like something you say is like self-compassion a lot, and I think it's something that I don't really understand fully still, but I do think that I felt the best when I'm allowing myself, like reminding myself that I have OCD and that I'm like still doing a good job just by like getting up and showing up to work and doing hard things. And I appreciate the podcast because I think um, it helps kind of like start my day and remind me of these things too. So I just appreciate that you have made the podcast and that that's another avenue for me to kind of be self-efficacious towards myself.
Thank you so much for saying that. And what I totally want to reinforce what you're saying about self-compassion. Sometimes self-compassion can be warm and fuzzy, or can you be you sitting on a cushion, meditating. But self-compassion can also be just living in being mindful of what you're currently experiencing, being kind to yourself about what you're currently experiencing, and connecting to your suffering to those of other people. So what you're saying, and just remembering that you have OCD, that it can be hard to get up every day and face all the fear that you're gonna face that day. That's both mindful and kind. So I think actually your application of self-compassion is right on target.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for coming back. It was great to hear more from you.
Thanks.